Hi, I'm Bruce Howard, Chair Waiuku Family Support. Welcome to another one of our stimulating podcasts. Today I'm talking with Ray Carter Selwood, who's one of the financial advisors at Waiuku Family Support. He is an amazing guy. I've got to confess he is an import, but I can't be too critical because he comes from Wales and my heritage is Scotland, so we sort of acknowledge we exist. He's got a delightful sense of humour, but a deep richness and a compassion and caring for people. And it was a very stimulating and thought-provoking podcast from my perspective. So please take the time to listen and enjoy. Well, at long last, a chance to sit down and chat, Ray.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You've been involved with Waiuku Family Support for a number of years in various roles. Can you talk me through your journey?
Yeah, well, gosh, it's a few years back now, but got a call from my pastor at the time, Amanda, saying that Waiuku Family Support were looking for some new blood on the board. And so I said yes.
Why?
Because I'm foolhardy.
Oh, okay.
And at the same time, Maria came on, who I must say is much more stamina than me because she's still on the board, and I lasted about a year or so, I think it was. But it was a good time. It was a good transitional time from, I guess, the older way into the newer, the newer practices and stuff like that. You know, which. So I think it was a process. It was a process that we were going through at the time.
Can you expand on the old and the new?
Well, it was, you know, mainly volunteers. There were some social workers there and stuff like that, but it was mainly volunteer. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's just a different beast altogether. And we appointed a new manager during that time as well. And it was just a transition period from, I think, where it was to now professional organisation where, people are remunerated for what they do. And I think that's a buy-in to the place as well. You know what I mean? So like I said,
so how's that impacted on the culture of the organisation? Because it is a significant thing to go from a very voluntary-driven organisation to a paid professional organisation.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's who you've got there as well. It's not just filling positions, but I think picking the right people it's a small office, so you can't be too jealous of your position or too, you've got to be prepared to muck in, and, if somebody comes to the door and there's no one there, then you just go and let them in and make them a cup of coffee or tea or whatever like that. It's being adaptable as well. But, like I said, we've been fortunate, I think, by the people that have been employed, leaving myself out of that, of course.
Well, I'm glad we got that bit clear.
But certainly the people that have come in over the last few years since I've been there, they work well together. It's a good atmosphere. I mean, I've said to Karen and I've said to various people that I've not had many jobs in my life where I actually drive in on a Monday morning and actually look forward to it.
Right.
Which is, I mean, that's something in itself. You actually look forward to getting to go into work, even during the winter months.
Wow. Sadly, there are a lot of people that they crave when Monday starts for Friday afternoon in their jobs.
Well, I mean, it's all about comparisons as well. I mean, I'm from Wales originally, and I was in civil engineering for many years, and getting up and getting on site by 7:30 with it snowing. Put things into perspective of, it's not too bad here.
We don't get a lot of snow in Waiuku.
Which I'm awfully glad about.
Same here.
Because my wife is a New Zealander. She was from Auckland originally. And I did say to her, if she was from the South Island, I probably wouldn't have come. Because much as I love the South Island, I'm not knocking the South Island at all, but to go, it makes a nice change climate-wise for me. So, yeah.
For me, the South Island has the most beautiful scenery imaginable.
Yeah.
But it's also got some downsides with that scenery.
And it's just the climate. That's all it is, yeah. And having, like I said, born and brought up in Wales, I needed a change of climate. People say to me, what's the difference between the climate in Wales and the climate in Auckland? I said, well, the rain's warmer.
Yes, we do have warm rain. I won't argue about that. What can you talk about your role and what you currently do at Waiuku Family Support?
Okay, so I'll just backtrack a bit. About 8 years ago, must have been 8 years ago, I think. At the time, my pastor at the time, we were looking at a organisation called CAP, which is Christians Against Poverty, which help people who are in financial difficulties and things like that. And we decided as a leadership that we would open a debt centre in Waiuku, and I took on that role. And I did that for, I think, 5 years or something like that. There's a financial implication to that. There's a cost because obviously they have to provide all the admin and stuff like that. And we were going through a period of rearranging our finances in the church. And so we actually closed that. We still kept what they call CAP money, which is a program. It's an easy budgeting sort of program. So we still ran that, but we actually closed the centre. And then probably, gosh, it's hard to say with COVID. I mean, it just sort of wiped out 2 years. 2 years, and I've got to look back to when it was. And I actually forget what happened that I actually ended up in Waiuku Family Support. It was I had a conversation somewhere with somebody about financial navigation and stuff like that, and I was asked, well, could you just come in for an hour or two a week, totally ad hoc, if there's a need and stuff like that? And I said, yeah, I could manage that. And then COVID came, and then we were doing all sorts of things. I mean, we were doing food parcels and deliveries and stuff like that. So we were pretty full on, even though most places were shut down and stuff like that. We carried on because you have to. And so then during that time, I was working more and more hours. And then probably about, gosh, it's hard to say again, was it a year ago or something? Karen said to me, would you consider doing more hours? So, so I do 20 hours a week there now.
Great. With
financial navigation, and there's always something to do. But again, it's been adaptable to a small office. That I also go on home visits with social workers if they're a bit low on the ground or whatever comes up. So it's a diverse role, but a very interesting role and very rewarding role as well. Yeah.
So what are the trends going from your observation with people that are struggling financially nowadays?
Oh, it's just basic costs. I mean, house, rent, most of the people we see are in rental accommodation, and I mean, they've just gone through the roof. Virtually, I mean, if you're on benefit and you're probably getting, whatever it is, say you're getting $700, $800 a week. Well, $500 of that goes on rent, which doesn't leave a lot.
And that's cheap rent because
as I say, that's the best you can get.
Yeah.
So you've got, it's basic costs. Everything's gone up. Food prices have gone up. Petrol, just to get anywhere. is really tough for people. And so we're not talking about people being spendthrifts or not looking after their finances. It's just the fact, if you're on a limited income, you can't afford, I always say to people, pay your rent, pay your power, have a roof over your head, and then hopefully whatever's left you can try and eat. But there's no easy remedies to this. It's just the cost of everything has gone so high.
And it's one of the, there's a huge amount of pluses in living in Waiuku, but one of the downside is there's zero public transport.
Yeah.
And if you can't walk to the supermarket, you got no choice but to drive.
That's right.
And as you say, the cost of petrol, it's just makes it all prohibitive for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, we have got a bus service after many years, but it's not a regular thing. And
one an hour is not a regular bus service.
No, it's not. And the fact is that only goes as far as Waiuku. I mean, if you live up the peninsula, then you've had it, mate.
Yeah.
It has to be car. There's no other way.
There's no other way.
Yeah.
Karen has often talked about in her time as GM about that the organisation wraps a korowai cloak around people for their total well-being. You're dealing, in a sense, with people at their rawest. So what are the other components that, as an organisation, we offer to those people beyond just the navigation? Because you can't go through poverty, hardship, and it not stress the living daylights out of you.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the whole thing. I mean, nothing is in isolation. I mean, if you've got limited finances, that leads to all sorts of stresses. It can lead to breakdowns, it can lead to, substance abuse, whatever it leads to, and then that just spreads out amongst the whole whānau but we've got counsellors, we've got social workers, there to advocate for people, support people. And again, like I said, with a small office, we talk to each other. We're all aware of, I've got this, this person has come in for this, but there's also, they have financial problems, and so I'll get referral that way. And the same thing, if somebody comes in and we're talking about their life, they've got financial problems, but why have they got financial problems? And that could be through, again, addictions or whatever. So then we've got people that can step up and look into that. So it's I think that's what I like about it. There's no politics, there's no office politics. We all have a vision for helping our clients who come in whatever way we can. Nobody's worried about stepping on other people's feet or anything like that. It's just what needs to be done, who's the best to do it, which is great. I'm not a social worker, I'm not a counsellor, but I've also had, I'm a chaplain, so I've had a lot of training as far as being with people and things like that. I know how to refer. It's that whole thing, the whole body thing, mind, spirit.
One of the lofty things that the board have talked about, I think they're a bunch of loopies, but never mind, is that the true measure of success of Waiuku Family Support is when we're no longer needed. I say loopy for a reason.
I mean, well, yeah, hopefully every organisation like ours, I mean, that's the goal, but I think there'd have to be a huge change in society for that to happen. And we were talking, well, I don't know. Yeah, that's not, I don't think we'll be able to work anytime soon, put it like that.
Yes, that's my belief. Well, I've always said that success for the organisation will come a long time after I'm dead.
Yeah.
So just realistically, I think you've got to have lofty ideals to drive towards because they affect your culture and the worldview of the organisation.
Yeah.
But it is, so at one level I agree with that. But it was like when I was general manager of apprentice training in New Zealand, and my board, I had 800 apprentices on my books. So you have 800 17 to 25-year-olds, which was the bulk of them, and tell them there's not allowed to be any accidents this year. You're flowing against the circulation of the blood in the brain. And so I understood the board telling me we had to do that.
Yeah.
And so but the reality was just quite a chasm between the theory and the reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember during our during my chaplaincy training and things like that, we had a video, and I think it was Bob Newhart, I think, really funny guy, and he was it was a sketch where he was the psychologist, and this lady came in and sat down, and he said, you realise I've charged you $50 an hour and stuff like that. And she said, yes. He said, so go ahead, tell me what your problem is. So she went through whatever her problem is, and he said, right. He said, okay, well, stop it. What do you mean stop it? Well, just stop it. Stop doing that.
If only.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
I remember a video I watched when I was lecturing. We had it as a tool for seminars and all sorts of things, and it was this guy C.W. Metcalf, and his video was called Humour Aerobics, and he said only about 1% of the population can actually tell jokes, but we all have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
And he talked about this guy that had been a prisoner of war in one of the Japanese camps, and he I think it was around the River Kwai, bridge on the River Kwai, around that area anyways. Yeah. And anyways, they asked him how did they cope when the trying to survive in there.
Yeah.
And this prisoner of war said, oh, we used to get treats. And C.W. Metcalf said to him, what do you mean you got treats? I thought the Japanese treated you terrible. Oh, no, we used to get a hint of chicken soup regularly. And they said, what's hint of chicken soup? Well, if a chicken walked past our prison thing, that was a hint of chicken in the soup. And I thought, when times are tough, that's when you've got to rely on a sense of try and find some humour in really difficult situations to survive.
Yeah, definitely.
So you seen any sense of humour in your clients? Because, so I actually think you're the frontline cop in a sense, because the people that turn up to you, they're at the end of their wits.
Yeah. Oh, there's always humour. And I think what I enjoy most about what I do is people very often come in pretty stressed out.
Yeah.
They're used to people telling them what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
You have to stop doing this. You have to stop doing that. You must do this. You must do that. And so a lot of people, when they first come in, are like, oh, here we go again. Somebody's going to tell me what I can and can't do. So the first thing I say when they sit down is, okay, tell me your story. What's happening? Mm. And so just that breaks that barrier down, because I'm not sat there saying, this is my agenda now. And so you it's not that you treat things lightly, but you don't hit people over the head with it either.
Yeah.
And it's just having conversations, and quickly you can, when you start a conversation and you let somebody tell their story, you can actually learn more than asking sort of like direct questions. Are you doing this or are you doing that? Because they will often say exactly what's going on. And then you can have a conversation about, okay, so what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. Not what am I going to do about it, but what are we going to do about it? And I think that that approach enables people that are usually, as I say, spend their life being told what they can and can't do.
I would imagine that would form a bond with them, that I'm not on this on my own, but equally I've got the rights to go down my own path.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not there to judge anyone or to we go through what they've got coming in, what they've got going out. And I'll just ask the question, do you smoke? How much do you spend on that? And then at the end, you have something in black and white, and you present it to them and say, this is your life, basically. This is what's happening. What do you think about it? And you can give advice, but only if it's asked for. It's there in black and white. And I would say, with financial things, they're there. All we're doing is bringing them into the light.
Yeah.
And there's always an answer. There is always an answer. It may be difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but there's always an answer. Nothing is ever, this is it, and they have to be prepared to go along with that as well. You can only go so far, but it's giving them the opportunity to make a decision themselves, not being told what to do.
There's, from my observation, limited employment opportunities available in Waiuku. How much does that play a role in the people's lives that you're dealing with?
I think I get most people that come in are either working part-time jobs or low-paying jobs, or they're through whatever reason they're on benefits or whatever like that. There's not a great deal of employment around Waiuku. There's retail stuff and things like that, with the supermarkets and shops and things like that. But there's not much in the way of, apart from the mill, obviously, the steel mill is there. And of course, it's the travel. Again, that's another catch-22. If you're willing to go into Auckland, Puki or Auckland, or you can probably get work there, but how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
If it's going to cost you as much in petrol and time to get there, then you can earn. It's not a great incentive.
And the other side, people that make comments that someone should travel and do it have never done the commuting lifestyle.
Exactly.
If you have to throw on an extra 2 to 3 hours on your day, over and above your working time,
exactly,
it's not a bucket of laughs.
No, it's the social aspect, the financial aspect. I can give you an example. My own son-in-law in Wales, due to COVID, he's fortunately got a job that he can work from home, and so it was a pay rise for him. Because he had hour and a half commute in the morning and at night, and the cost of fuel and stuff like that. Converted to New Zealand, I guess. He said he was probably saving about $500 a month.
Wow.
Easily. Which is a pay rise. So,
well,
yeah.
500 months, a lot of dosh in anybody's books.
Yeah. So, that's that thing about commuting. If you've never done it, if you think, yes, okay, just, go and find a job somewhere. Well, yeah. But it's not as easy as that.
Well, I had one of my chief executive jobs. I lived in Te Aratu, out West Auckland, and I was the chief executive of an organisation in South Auckland in Manukau. And I had more than one day that it was over 3 hours to get either home or back to work.
Yeah.
And I had a luxury of a company car.
Yeah.
But it still didn't take away the exhaustion factor. And I know everyone thinks chief executives do stuff all during the day, so it didn't matter. But I was working 10, 11-hour days before I started any commuting. It was physically exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, same for me in Wales. It took me, hour and a half to get to work. So that's 3 hours a day. You're out from, I used to leave about 6:30 in the morning, get home about 5-ish or whatever it was. And sitting in the cars is stressful enough anyway. It is for me. I'll just put it for me.
But you're in New Zealand here. You've got New Zealand drivers. It's enough said, enough said.
Not commenting on that.
I will. Then you got the Waiuku driving culture, which is even different again to the rest.
Yeah.
It's got its own rules of how it runs. Trying to get out of a driveway yesterday, and this car was parked halfway across it. It was quite fascinating. And the person I was with said, "Well, that's no point getting upset. It's just the way it operates around here."
Yep.
So, coming from Wales, how are you finding Waiuku apart from warmer rain?
I arrived in Waiuku in 2006 from Wales. So I've always lived in Waiuku since I've been in New Zealand. Like I said, my wife is a New Zealander.
Did you meet her over in
Wales?
Oh,
yeah. She went over for an OE for a year and stayed 22.
Quick trip. Quick trip.
So we met in Wales. So coming to Waiuku, for me, it wasn't a great culture change. I came from a small rural town in Wales, where, funnily enough, the biggest employer was the steelworks.
How ironical.
Culturally, quite similar. Small countries.
Yeah.
Fight in their corner. Sport, rugby. My extended family are part Samoan, part Maori as well. So I arrived and inherited 23 aunties, another 500 nephews and nieces, which I wasn't aware of at the time. Yes, I mean, I quickly got into the New Zealand culture, so it was easy for me.
Okay, an easy question now. If I could give you a magic wand, and I don't believe they exist, but for this question, they exist. And
have I got to answer world peace to this?
No. If I gave you the magic wand, and you could wave it over Waiuku Family Support, what would be the one thing you'd want to give it, and why?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I like them easy.
Gosh. I mean, the people who are there, I mean, they're all great. I mean, don't tell them this, mine. I hope.
I won't. It's not being recorded, so don't worry.
Thank goodness, we can cut that bit out. So, I mean, always more resources in whatever way that is. I mean, the building layout is really nice now. It's really welcoming. That's a lot of work's gone into that, but it's a really bright place and whatever like that, but probably needs to be enlarged for the mahi to be done there well. Which I'm sure we're looking at.
That's what the new building's all about.
Exactly. Yeah. And but apart from that, I mean, the culture's great. It's whatever can be done to help do the work. Yeah.
In talking of our community, what areas do you see that, from a need perspective, are growing?
Oh, gosh, that's a really tough one. That it's basically culture, modern life, break down the family and I think a place of knowing your place, or knowing your history, or knowing where you're from. I worked for a while. I worked at a men's refuge in, and I found there that some of the, not all, but a few of the Maori men that were there, especially the young boys, they seem to have a total disconnect from their culture.
Yeah.
I think it's just really important to to know where you're from, know where you belong. Yeah. You know, when there's not that social background, or it's just it's hard to explain. But I think there's a lack of connection.
I remember when I was one of my many times and turns of trying to learn te reo, and my biggest hurdle is my terrible pronunciation. But one of my kaiako, Te Mamaroa, said to me when I was doing my pepeha that, Bruce, you never talk about anything pre-New Zealand. And I said, don't know anything pre-New Zealand. I know they came from Scotland, but that's as much as I knew.
Yeah.
And so she held a gun to my head, literally, in more ways than one, to learn my true ancestry. And it was life-changing for me, to be honest. If I hadn't been through the experience, I wouldn't have believed that it would change you as much. And, you know, all my brothers, we all got our own kilt and everything, and I've got a mug at home that says New Zealand born but with Scottish roots, because that's where I came from, and I'm super proud of that. So I think for young people today, I wonder how many of them are lost souls because they don't know that sort of stuff about themselves.
Yeah. It's I mean, I love history in whatever form that takes, because I think unless you know your history, how can you make informed choices now? You know, for the future.
How do you know to go forward if you don't know your past?
Yeah, I mean, and that's not painting a rosy view of some golden age, which never was. No. But unless you know your history, how are you going to learn from it?
Yep.
I mean, I still see, you know, the things that are going on today, and you think, man, do you have never learned from history where this is leading? I always say to everyone, know your history, you know, and it's not, and I don't mean you have to be a bookworm and delve into it, and, you know, but just learn what's gone on before. What happened before, when this happened, or when these decisions were made? What were the repercussions of those? I really do think know your history, know your story, know your history, know other people's stories, be interested in other people's stories, and then they're not the other person.
I had my granddaughter up last weekend, as you know. She helped us out at our function.
Yeah,
and one of the chats with her over the weekend was she said that she's just finished her school in life.
Yeah.
She's having a gap year next year to get she's going to fund herself through varsity. But she said that her last class with her history teacher, the history teacher said, now we're going to sit down and you're going to learn the true history of what went on in our area, because she comes from Taumuru. And of course there was some really ugly battles down there. From a Pākehā perspective, they were called the wars of that area. Well, they weren't wars in the sense that we view them nowadays. And it was people, it's a bit like the Ukrainians trying to fight for the sovereignty of their own land. And that's what the Maori were doing there, but it was never acknowledged as that.
Yeah.
And she got really, really tearful as she told me about it. And she said, why did they wait till our last lesson of the year to tell us this? She said, I should have been learning this right back at primary school. We should have been wrestling with this stuff. It's wrong, Granddad, what went on. Yeah. And I said, it is, honey. I said, what are you going to do about it? And she says, we've got to make sure we don't treat people as badly as we've done for 140 years.
Yeah. If you don't know your history, how do you know that?
Exactly. That's the very point that you were saying. And I thought, well, there's that old saying, out of the mouths of babes. She'd thump me if I called her a babe. But, you know, that concept, when you're my age, and they're at that age, they are young babies. Yeah. But, yeah, if we don't learn some of the atrocities we've done and just front up them, you will go through periods of guilt. I know I have over some of the stuff that's gone on in New Zealand history. But then you come out and say, let's find constructive ways forward.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about in the work that you do, is let's not judge. Let's face the reality.
And then go from here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to me, I don't want to say this to you, but it's a smart solution. I didn't say that, delete that bit. But it is, because it's about people given the right and treated the right way will find their solutions that are correct for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And we're all different.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I believe each human being is a unique person.
Mm-hmm.
We come together into communities because we find areas in common.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've got to do more of, is find what we've got in common rather than what we've got in difference.
Yep. Yep.
And my naive theology. So, to bring this to conclusion, what if you had to explain to someone who'd never even heard of it? Like when I first came here, I didn't even know what the heck anyone was taught what this organisation was about, and it took me about 18 months to learn. How would you explain it to someone in an easily understandable way, what it is and what it's about?
I think at the basic level is that other person that can advocate for you and support you in whatever situation you find yourself in. So it's a place of refuge. Yeah, simple as that, really. It's a friendly face. I know.
You must have different mirrors to me. Thanks, Ray. I'm enjoying these podcasts because I'm getting to know everyone in a different way, which is special. But each time I'm learning more and more about this organisation, and it's probably shouldn't say it, but I feel more proud about it every time I do one of these for what I learn. And the unique and very special people like yourself that we have working for it. Mm. And because everyone's making a difference in other people's lives.
Yep, definitely.
So thanks, mate. It's enjoyable.
No problem at all.